Hello, guys, and welcome back to another installment or continuation of Galley Stories, Stories to Bering Sea and Beyond. I am your host, Mark Kaler, with Howard Malcolm from the FV Northern Patriot, currently. But I think at this point, we're just getting on the Golden Pisces or...
Golden Pride.
Golden Pride.
Golden Pride, yeah.
Let's continue this roll.
Okay, so I'm on the Golden Pride, and it was an 86-foot joint venture boat. Joint venture is where we are catching fish, and we are delivering the bags. We do not bring the fish on board. We're delivering the bags of fish to foreign processors. Our market on that boat was the Russians and the Soviets at that point. And so there was a fleet of processors out there, all foreign, and you know, there was Japanese and Korean and German and Soviets and Taiwanese, and you know, and everyone kind of had their little market. Our market was the Soviets. And so we're delivering amongst, you know, there was multitude of American boats out there doing this. And by this time I had progressed, you know, I was the deck boss on the Golden Pride, and then became the engineer, and, you know, and I'd already, you know, been taught how to engineer from a very fine fellow, John Justad. I got to give him props. He really taught me a lot. That was in '83. I was on the Western Viking with him for a whole year, and very fine fellow, and really taught me a lot. Taught me a lot about the engine room, taught me a lot about how to run a boat. So anyway, so I'm on the Golden Pride, and I know that this boat is unsafe. I mean, I just know it, right?
What's giving you that?
Because it just heels over too hard. It's too fast of flip-flopping back and forth.
Was it ballast? Or?
It was just too tender. It was known as a tender boat. Okay, and a tender boat doesn't mean it's a fish tender, right? You know, it means two different things. It means it's too top heavy. It rolls too much. It leans over. It doesn't right itself. So it just not enough ballast down below. You know, something's kind of wrong. And we just knew it. We just knew this boat was. I always knew this boat was going to sink.
How many years on boats at this point when you were?
So I got on there in '85. I started in '79, so 6 years. I just knew throughout my tenure on there, I just knew it was going to sink. I knew it was. I just didn't think it would ever happen with me on board, right? Because like I told people, now for steaming, never put the rudder hard over because we'll probably roll. And the reason I knew that is we were leaving the fuel dock in Dutch Harbor, just had gotten done fueling up, and the skipper was going full speed, and he put the rudder hard over and buried the rail on the boat, the main deck rail. It was underwater, water pouring over the side, and I just went, and he went woo, you know, he was a fill-in guy, and then I just went, whoa, holy crap, right? Anyway, so now I'm on there, and I was still working it. And it was in '87, September of '87. And we had gone out. We'd left town. It was blowing. It was one of those typical things where they tell you, you know, it's never just one event, it's many events. And the skipper says, we're leaving town. We'd been in town for 4 days. Says, why are we leaving town? You know, it's blowing out there. He goes, yeah, but I've spent too much money in the bar. How much have you spent? He goes, well, I've spent $100. That ain't nothing, you know. That's entrance fee for one night for me, you know. And he goes, no, we're leaving. So we go on out, and he was going to duck into Actan. It got to Actan. Well, it's not so bad. We'll just keep on going. We're going out to fish codfish off of Unimac. And so we got out.
What's the gear you're using?
Bottom gear. We're bottom fishing. The whole time on there was just bottom fishing. So all we did was bottom fish. It was yellowfin, sole, and cod. That's what we did.
Big net, just dragging on the bottom?
Yep. So we got out there, and it was too rough to fish, and we started jogging, and then the captain said, you know what? We're going to start drifting. What? You never drift when it's that shitty, right? And it was blowing northwest 45, 50. And so, and you never drift. You never drift in that kind of seas, you know. But the boat did drift well. It was tender as shit. But it did. I will say this: it did drift well. I mean, it was so comfortable; it just barely rolled. So we're laying there drifting. It's the middle of the day, and getting in the afternoon. And the skipper's in his bunk. I don't know, said he was sleeping and reading something. And a guy up on radio watch. That's what we called it. You're drifting, you're just on radio watch, just hanging out up there. And then my brother Don, and who was a deckhand at the time, and me were hanging out in the galley watching TV. And all of a sudden, we took this wave. And you know how a surfer gets tubed? This wave tubed the boat. Just all the way around it. We got tubed. And it laid the boat over to where it kind of got to a normal stopping point, and we hung there. And we just hung there. And then we just barely started to come back, and we got tubed by a second wave. And it just laid us over, and that was all she wrote. We're just laying on our side, and water is pouring in. It's 4 in the afternoon, so it's still daylight out, and water is pouring in. You look out the galley window. That's where I was at. This in the galley. I'm looking out the galley window, and all I'm seeing is just green water. Water is pouring in there, and we are not coming back. We're laying flat sideways, and all the survival suits were in the galley, up on top of the refrigerator. So Don scrambles up the stairs, which is now sideways. He gets himself up there, and he's going, toss me survival suits, toss me. So there's 4 people on board. There's 4 survival suits. And there goes one. 2 more. And I can't find the 4th one. And he's going, where is it? I'm going, I don't know. And I'm sloshing around in water. I'm walking on the wall. I'm up to my knees in water, up to my ankles, quickly filling up to my knees, and I'm sloshing around in water, and all the debris that's floating around, the salt and pepper shakers, and I mean everything, right? It's just floating. And I'm walking around. Thank God it was daytime, because we had no emergency lights on board. If it would have been dark, I would have been toast. That would have been it, because he's laying on his belly looking over, from the stairwell, which is now sideways, of course. He's looking over, and he sees my survival suit all the way up forward in the forepeak stateroom. He goes, it's up in the forepeak, which is there was the stateroom up there. So I slog my way through the water. I got it, and I get it back. By this time, I'm up to about my crotch in water. And I hand it to him, and I get on up the stairwell, and I get up there. By the time I get up there, the other 2 guys are in their survival suits. Don is putting on his survival suit, and here now I am soaking wet up to my waist. And so, wet skin on the survival suit doesn't really work, and I'm trying to get in, and we're up outside on the side of the boat in this storm that's raging, and I'm trying to get the survival suit on. I did get, with their help, I get it on, I get it zipped up, and I said, did you get, and the skipper's in a little bit of a shock at this point, and I said, did you get a mayday off? He goes, no, I didn't get a mayday off. So then I climb back in the wheelhouse, and I go down. It was starboard side was down, and which is the driver's side, the boat. And so I go down there, and I pick up this mic that's laying in the water, and I pick it up, and I go mayday, and I do a whole mayday, and nothing comes back, and I just drop it back down the water, and I climb back out. And then we're like, we gotta get the life raft loose. So then we get up there, and the hydrostatic release will not release until the boat is 15 feet underwater.
Right.
Well, but there's a button that this time is a stainless steel kind of round assembly that had a button on it, and you hit that button and it released it. So I grabbed, but it was sideways, and there's nowhere to stand. There's nothing. So I'm holding on to the rail, and I'm swinging my body up. I'm trying to kick it with the top of my foot, kind of soccer. And I reach, and I get it, and I kick that button, and it releases. And it goes out, and it pops. Then we get the line that's still attached, like it's supposed to be. And we're going, how do we get this loose? we'd never, at that point, you hadn't seen a life raft actually inflated in like in a shop for servicing, so you didn't really know what to expect. And so we didn't know that it would come loose. So we decided we need to cut it loose, but we didn't have any knives with us. So we decided, let's burn it. I said, let's burn it. Let's get a handheld flare. Let's burn that line. So we popped a handheld, because we had some flares with us. We popped a handheld flare and we got the line, and we used the flare to burn through the line. And then we're all holding on to the line. The line got burnt and threw the flare out, and we're all kind of holding on to it. By this time, the boat is rolling, turning turtle, as they say. It's rolling belly up. The keel's coming up out of the water, and now we're no longer on the wheelhouse. All four of us. And we're all in our survival suits. We're all four, and it's going now. We're no longer on the wheelhouse. We're actually on the hull of the boat. And we're starting to go up there, and then we're all hanging on, and then a wave breaks over the keel of the boat and washes us all in the water. And which I think it was, in retrospect, was a good thing that we had burnt the line loose, because we're all hanging on, because we all kind of went out there. And I was third in line. It was Craig Magone of the Magone family that had Magone Marine up there, is Dan Magone and Dave Magone and then Craig Magone. And so Craig was, and then my brother Don was. Those two were the first two. I was third in line, and then Gary, the skipper, was in the back, and he's just kind of laying there. But I'll say this: when I went in the water, I was underwater. The wave had washed, and I'm underwater, and I couldn't breathe. Of course, you're underwater, and always had water around. And I remember on the survival suit bag, it says, "Just relax. You cannot sink." And that came to mind, so I just relaxed and poof, pop. I just popped to the surface. I had since let go of the line, but then I felt the line underneath in my armpit, and I clamped down on it. I got it, and I looked behind me, and Gary was back there, the captain, and he was kind of laying there, and I started yelling, "Gary, and he kind of popped too, and I go, "Come on," and he goes, I go, "Come on, Gary, you gotta go." And so he grabbed, and the line was still there, and we all pulled ourselves to the life raft, and we got in the life raft, and those guys helped us all in, and it was a 6-man life raft, and there was 4 of us, and I gotta tell you, it was tight. I could not believe. I'm thinking there's going to be some room. It's tight. How you could fit 6 guys in there, I don't know. We were 4, and it was tight. We're all, and which is. But the waves are tossing us and turning us, and to the point where we're going almost vertical, and we're having to throw. All of us were tossing our weight up to the uphill side so we don't go all the way over. You're
trying to jog inside of the raft.
True, and it's twisting and it's turning, and you're getting jerked around, and because it has a drogue out there, a sea anchor, and you're doing that. So, and the skipper's getting seasick, which is pretty common actually. They tell you the first thing you got to do is get your seasick medicine out and take it. And but we hadn't done that, and he's getting seasick, and oh geez, it was mayhem. It was chaos. Finally, it kind of came down just a little bit, and we're kind of settled in, and we got used. We're still getting jerked around. We're still having to pitch ourselves to the high side, but the novelty of it all, kind of had worn off. We're kind of getting used to, okay, this is what we're doing, and we're actually talking a little bit at this point. Then we hear a boat's engine. Oh God, there's a boat there. And we open up the flap, and we look outside, and here's one of these foreign motherships going by. And we had the flares out. We knew we had 2 parachute flares. And so, and this been...
Because you already used one.
Well, no, we used a handheld flare.
Oh, okay.
Okay? So there was 2 flares in the boat, in the raft.
Nighttime or daytime at this point?
It's still daytime. Getting towards nighttime, but still daytime. So we popped a flare off. And I mean, that boat was... It was probably a quarter, maybe a half mile away, but probably a quarter mile away. It was there, right? And we popped the flare off, and it just kept on going. And that's when we kind of knew, oh, we're screwed. Well, we're screwed. But we're trying to keep, now we're starting to think about, well,
Is your boat down by now?
it's down. It's down. It had sunk. We watched it sink, and it went down. It finally went down the bow first. The stern was the last thing. But, the typical black smoke coming out and bubbles and, the last little bit and, and it's sliding underwater. Yeah. So now we're turning our talk towards, okay, it's blowing northwest. We're over here. We're off Unimac Island, so we're going to end up on Unimac Island. Where on Unimac are we going to end up? Because the wind's going to blow us on Unimac. And are the bears still alive? I mean, they're obviously alive, but are they awake? Are they hibernating or are they awake? And are we going to land on a sandy beach or is it going to be a rocky beach? What do we need to prepare for? And when we get on the beach, do we need to be prepared to run for our lives because of bears?
What year was this?
This is 1987.
What was on that survival boat? I mean, because now there's like snacks and there's...
Well, there was food. There's food and water, and you have the rations. You have the Solace pack. Even back then, you had the Solace pack. Yeah, you did. You had the Solace pack. You had essentially everything. I think probably you had everything then that you have now, because they had developed.
Line.
Yeah, there was not the EPIRB though. Now you have an EPIRB on board. See, EPIRBs were just coming around, and you did not have the 406 satellite EPIRB at the time. You only had the 208 megahertz, 205, whatever, and that could only be picked up by aircraft. And in fact, the owner, we wanted one of those for the boat, and the owner says, no, it's too expensive. I think it was $2,000. He goes, you can get a new Loran. Of course, GPS wasn't a thing at that time. It's Loran. He goes, you can get a new Loran or you can get an EPIRB. And he goes, you can't trust those EPIRBs, and they're too expensive anyway. So you got a new Loran. You got a Loran. You know where you're going to be. Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks, Buster. And so we had, I forgot where I was now.
Well, you're sinking. You're
yeah,
fucking sinking.
Okay. Oh, so
yeah.
we had shot
Boat's
this first
gone,
flight.
the...
Okay, so we have one flare left. And so we're deciding if we should fire it, when we should fire it. Well, we're not going to fire it until we hear another boat. So we see another boat go by. We hear another boat. We open up the flap. We see another boat go by. And we had this discussion, should we fire it or not? It's our last thing. Should we do it? It's still kind of daylight this time. We decide, let's fire it. It's right there. Let's fire it. So we fired it. And that boat kept on steaming by us. It was another foreign joint venture boat. It kept on going by us. And now our hearts sunk. We had some handheld flares on board still, in the life raft, but we didn't have any parachute flares, So we closed it up, and we were feeling pretty down at this point. And so we were settled into, we were going to have to ride it out. This is the thing. Okay, we're not going to drink any water for a certain amount of time. We're not going to eat for 24 hours. We're talking about all this stuff that we got to do, right? And then we heard another boat noise. And we open up the curtain, that whole, and we look out, and here is the bow of the Amfish, which is now the Ocean Peace. And at the time, it was about a 220-foot factory trawler. And they are coming right at us, and there is multiple people up on the bow, and they're all waving to us. And so, my God, we're saved. We're saved. And so they came up and they pulled alongside us. They got us on their lee side, and they threw us a line. They got us a line. They had the Jacob's ladder down. Well, by this time I was cold because bottom half of my body was wet. Well, the top half of my body was gotten all wet too, and I could barely grip things. Really couldn't. And I was cold. I was going into hypothermia. And so, but the other guys were dry, so they were good. Then someone on the boat decided that they're going to pull us to the stern, and they're going to pull us up the stern ramp, with this little heaving line. Well, it doesn't take any rocket science to figure out that's not going to happen. There's a lot of weight. And anyway, but they pulled us down the stern, and they're pulling us up to the stern ramp. Well, it's still heavy weather. It's still big seas. Well, this boat is coming out of the water about 5 feet, and it is going in the water 10, 15 feet, whatever. It's going down, and it's coming up, and it's going down. And they're pulling us in there, and it's going up. The hydraulics of it, we're getting sucked in, and we got about, I don't know, we're getting closer. We're getting 5 feet, 4 feet, 3 feet, and I'm in the back of the life raft, and I can see it. We're going to get squished like a bug. That's just it. We're going to get squished like a bug, and I'm trying to rip the canopy of this life raft open to get out, to escape, and finally someone said, up on the ship, put her head, and right then, it came up, and I saw the propeller, saw the rudder, and it started making prop wash, and we got shoved out, and they came around, and they put us back on their lee side, and they picked us up, and we climbed up the Jacob's ladder, and I don't know what line I was at, but I know I was kind of towards the end. But I got up to the rail, and all of a sudden I felt like Peter Pan, because and there was these two, I don't know, 4, I don't know how many. There was several large Samoans up at the rail, and they just grabbed me and they just flinged me over the rail. And
were you the size you are now? Because you're like 6'7" or something.
I was 6'5" and I was 6'5" and 230, 220 at the time. Maybe, yeah.
Because you're not a small man.
No. I was probably I was almost 6'5", and 200 something, and I just Peter Panned myself right over the rail. They just grabbed me, it was a weird feeling, So, but we're safe, and they took us to town, and I still, to this day thankful, blessed that we were found and stuff, and so
all 4 guys were okay.
All four guys, and I really.
Your brother was on there,
and my brother was on there.
Does he still fish?
He's dead.
Oh,
he's passed. He fished right up until he got stomach cancer. He got stomach cancer in late 2015, and he passed in early 2016.
But fished till then.
Right up, yeah. He became a mainly halibut fisherman, fishing out in the way out in the Aleutians, and did quite well. No, way out. We're talking Amchitka.
Oh,
delivering into Atka and Adak, but way out there, fishing semi-Sepoichnoi, fishing at. I think he made it all the way out to Attu on a fairly regular basis. Yeah, he was fishing the western part of the chain. Yeah, and then he did that until a couple of years before he passed. He bought a Southeast Gillnet permit and boat, and that's what he transitioned to. It's going to be his retirement boat. Done with the long line, and so going to have my family on board. And that's what he did.
So where did you go from there?
So from there, I was at that point in 1987. I just had moved down to Oregon, and Patty and I we were married at this point.
Did you get a house?
And bought a house down there.
Windows?
When it was
indoor plumbing.
Well, had indoor plumbing, but it only had a wood stove.
Well, you mastered that art.
We mastered that art, yeah, and we got that because the Golden Pride had just been in shipyard down in Newport, and we had a house down there, and we just thought, what am I gonna do? And Patty says, you know what, you really got your shit together on these boats, you really do.
Yeah, you sank with one.
But as far as people talk, and I was starting to get a reputation as being a kind of that go-to guy, that the guy that's got potential, right? She goes, you know what? You don't got a boat. You're not tethered down. You need to get your captain's license. So I go, I think I got it. Yeah, I think that's right. So I came up, I checked it out, and didn't have anything ready. And so I started contacting all these companies, all these boats, all these past skippers, and started having them sign off on sea time, and got myself signed up to captain's class over here. It was called Sea School at Fisherman's Terminal, and signed myself up for that. Rented a place up here, and we came up here, and I went in 2 weeks. 2 weeks of hardcore eating, breathing, shitting navigation. That's what I did. 8 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. The school officially closed at 5, but the instructor says, look, I'll take an hour dinner, but I'll open it up at 6. I'm going to close it down at 10 o'clock. If you want to come in. And I went in every night. I'm like, I'm not screwing around. I'm going to do this. So I did it. Went to school for 2 weeks. And by that time I had all my sea time in. Went down to Portland Coast Guard. Tested. Passed all 3 courses. All 3 tests. One day. Bam. I got my license. I'm like, holy shit. Well,
now what?
I'm a licensed captain.
Yep.
I'm a licensed captain, and I'm not just fishing. I was inspected.
Explain that.
Okay, so you can get a tonnage license for fishing vessels only, or you can go extra and above, and it's just a matter of taking extra tests, and then you can be licensed for inspected vessels, which is passenger carrying, mineral and oil, and freight and tow, and you're good for all those.
So you could be that drunk guy driving the Valdez.
I could. Well, I don't have that kind of tonnage. That's unlimited, But I had a 500-ton inspected license at that time. So and I knew. I kind of checked around the Newport fleet. I was talking to some guys down there, but you know what? I was done with that 78, 80 foot, 85 foot, 80, I was done with that size. I wanted big. The bigger, the better. So this guy that I'd worked for on the Donna Genevieve, which is 123 foot high house Marco, just a foot longer and a high house compared to the Jack's boat, the Columbia. I call it Jack's boat.
Everyone does.
Yeah, and Lloyd's boat, the Storm Petrel, same hull. Donna Genevieve and Storm Petrel, same boat.
123s.
123 foot high houses. So I'd already worked on that boat for Walter Kerr Jr. Walter Kerr Sr. was kind of the old man. He's the one that first hired me on the Genevieve, but never actually worked for him. Junior came up, took over the boat, and I kind of became Junior's guy, right? And so I talked with Junior, and I says, "Do you got anything going? What's going on with Genevieve?" And he goes, "Well, you know what?" He goes, "We just bought a new boat. We're bringing it around from Alabama." This is when I still going to school, to get my captain's license. He goes, "It's coming around from," actually no, Louisiana. He goes, "It's coming around right now." He goes, "If you get your mate's license," I go, "I'm going for a captain's license." I don't care about captain's license. You need your mate's license. If you get your mate's license, if you get your license by the time it gets up here, you got the job. If you don't got the job. There's a little bit of motivation there because I knew
that's why you're pushing those.
And
6 to 10 class.
Yeah. So I got it, and then I got up here, and I got the mate's job, and which is the Doña Polita. Doña Polita is the Northern Patriot.
She was gold and white, or
no. The original name was the Lou Pelham. That is the original name when she was off in the oil supply industry, and they called it offshore supply boat, but we all call it mud boat. Okay, because they carried liquid mud. Liquid mud is cement, liquid cement. Okay, but that was in 1987, and I had been on that boat since 1987. And so we put
Down in the engine room and
well, I never was the engineer because I was the mate.
oh,
Man.
license, right?
Yeah, it's licensed. Yeah, need licensed mate, need licensed captain, need licensed engineer, and so went and we put it through shipyard up in Dakota Creek, made it into a fishing vessel, took it up to Alaska in late January of '88 and I was the mate, and it was in kind of later 88. October, November, he goes, and it was Walter Jr. who was running the boat. It was his thing. It was his gig. And he goes, you know what? I want to go home. You ready to drive? I was in 88 at that time. I think I had just turned 27 years old. Hell yeah, I'm ready to drive. Yeah.
And getting the keys to that boat? Yeah.
Getting the keys, I am ready. I am ready. You know, this is what I've worked for. I'm ready. So I got the boat. And, I've listened to a couple of the podcasts. One of the guys said talk about bullshit. Maybe a little bit of bullshit there. Yeah, I mean, I knew how to do stuff. I did.
That was Derek's.
Yeah, it was
Remember
Derek's.
He was like, I faked my way into the engine room.
Well,
but he figured it out.
I did not fake my way into the wheelhouse. I knew it, but as captain, I did make some greenhorn mistakes, But you live and learn, right? The first time, I never actually docked the boat. Here's this 165-foot boat, and the first time I go to dock it, I started about a half mile out from the dock, and I'm trying to sidewalk it from a half mile out, and I'm going nowhere. I'm up against the wind, and oh God, it was ugly. I finally got it in. It took me 2 hours, but I got it in. It didn't bump anything, it was good.
Isn't it the best advice is if you're nervous, go slower.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yeah, with
that's
me
what I was told
it was inexperience. But anyway,
when I got this boat, that's what I was told.
So okay, I got the keys to the boat, and I ran, and I did a good job. I did, The next season, he was a short season. 89 was a short season. He took the whole thing, but then in 1990, him and I started splitting the boat 50-50. And I got a lot of wheelhouse time, and I was just captain at that point. And so,
how was your crew?
Crew is great. I still have a couple of the crew members.
Do you?
I have 2 original crew members on that boat. 3 of us are original crew members on that boat.
Who are those?
Mark Evinger and Matthias Leite. Yeah, both great guys. So my crew, my wife calls them my second family. I'm out there for it now. It's 7.5 months, 7 months, something like that. But it's been 8.5, 9 months out there on that boat, year in, year out, and so my wife just calls it the second family. It's my second family, and we're like a family on there. Of course, with the family, you get the brothers that are bickering occasionally, but we're a band of brothers, and we get along great. We do.
That bond forms over time, right?
It does. Oh, it does. It does. It's not immediate, but I've always treated the Northern Patriot as...
Well, wait. It wasn't the Northern Patriot.
No, it was the Doña Polita. But it
so let's talk about the transition.
Okay, so interesting story in the transition. So we were the Doña Polita until August of 2000. And then Trident had been a 50% owner in that company for... I don't know, 4 or 5 years, 6 years, something like that. And then something happened, not sure, don't want to go into it. They split the sheets, and there was 3 boats involved. And so you can't cut a boat in the middle. Someone's going to end up with 2, and someone's going to end up with 1. Well, Nina Fisheries at the time, which is Bob Destatel, and Walter Kerr Jr. They ended up with the Doña Martita, and ended up with the Doña Liliana, which became the Sovereignty, and the Doña Polita, which became the Northern Patriot.
They're like twin boats.
Oh, they are. Well, all three of them are.
I haven't seen the third one.
Yeah, well, and the third one doesn't look like it because it's been transformed. It was lengthened. It was not sponsored, but it was lengthened. The working deck was raised one deck. The wheelhouse was raised one deck. It's a really nice boat, first class boat, and is now the Bering Defender.
Oh, I've seen that boat. Yeah. Beautiful boat.
Yeah, that's old Doña Martita. Used to same hull as us two, same exact hull, built in the same yard, and the whole bit. So anyway, so we had all three boats built in the same yard. So transition comes. Both owners, well, not owners, but the management, is they came on board, they gave us a talk, we're switching, everything's going to stay the same, don't worry, we're going to do it.
That's always the speech,
okay,
right?
Yeah, that's always a speech. We started fishing, and after we just had gotten done with the whole Bristol Bay tendering season, because we always did Bristol Bay tendering, and we get done with that, we'd have a week or two layup, and then we start with the pollock. And so my mate says to me, I think I need some time off. There's about 2 weeks after the transition had been made. He says, I think I need some time off. Well, I knew this guy. He'd worked on and off for me for 10 years. And he was a good guy. He was my mate, I mean, he 10 years. He was a good guy.
You gotta trust him, right?
And he says, I need some time off. And I go, like, now? Do you need to go now? He goes, no, a couple trips. If you could just get the word out, a couple trips. I need to take off. And I said, okay, that's fine. So we take off, and at the time, the sea lion conservation area, which is this vast amount of the eastern Bering Sea, was closed to pollock fishing permanently at the time, okay, for sea lion conservation. So we had to go,
or sea lion buffet, whatever you want to call it.
Well, it was the sea lions were going down without a doubt. Scientific, the sea lion population was going down. They did not know why. One of the things was maybe it's fishing, maybe it's commercial fishing. Well, it turns out it wasn't, and they opened it all up, and it's all good. But at the time, they didn't know, and so hey, boom, we have an endangered species. We're stopping. We're closing off this section of the Bering Sea. So we were traveling, 16 hours. I'll just say, something like that, to get out legal in the open area, and so we get out there. We're gonna be legal about 11:30 at night, and so I'd driven quite a bit during the day, and then I got that mate up there. Take it to here, wake me up. I'm gonna take a nap. We'll be legal. Then I'll get up and start looking for fish. So I do. He does. He takes the watch. I take a nap. He gets me up. And I start driving, and I'm looking, and he's there, and he just kind of chats for a minute, and he goes down below, and then he pops up, and he looks at the chart a little bit. He takes the dividers, and he's looking at the chart, and he goes down below. Doesn't say a word. I'm thinking, but he's a little half bubble off plum anyway, right? Great guy, but always half bubble off plum, if you know what I mean there, right? So anyway, then I'm driving, I'm not seeing shit. There's no fish sign here. And I'm zigging, and I'm zagging, and then Mark Evinger, he comes up the wheelhouse, and he's hanging around with me. He's about midnight now. He's kind of hanging around with me, and then, I don't know, it's 1 o'clock. And there's no fish here. Everyone had been up to the northwest, and I went to the northeast, up above Aman, to try and look around. Well, we're going to turn, and we're going to go over to the fleet, and we'll peruse this area. So I'm going to take a nap here. He goes, well, you want me to take it? I'm wide awake. Sure, go ahead, take it. So I go and lay down, And he wakes me up about 4 in the morning. Says, I don't think Tracy's on board. Tracy's a mate. Says, what do you mean? What the hell? What do you mean Tracy's not on board? You know, I mean, I'm popping right awake. And he goes, I don't think Tracy's on board. You go upstairs and you ring the general alarm right now. And we're waking everyone up. We had a brand new observer who was single. Tracy was single. I'm thinking, you know,
could be in a
yeah, we'll check it out, right? So I jump up, and everyone gets up with the general alarm, and Tracy's not one of them. And I go, okay, search the boat. So they search the boat. You know, I slow down, and they search the boat. They come back and they said, Tracy's not on board. I said,
that's your mate.
Yeah, that's my mate. Bullshit. He's on board. He's on board somewhere. Luck. And so they go and they come back again. And they said, nope, Tracy's not on board. And I says, God damn it. Frickin' look. You know, I'm not screwing around here.
It's a big boat, though.
Yeah. You go up on the bow, you look in the chain locker, you go up in the stacks and the fiddlies, because there's been other people in the past that have tried to fake their death on other boats, and they've hid in the stacks and up in the fiddlies, and they've, you know, to try and fake their deaths, you know, for whatever reason. We don't need to go into that now, but anyway, it's happened. So they came back and they said he's not on board, and not only that, we found an empty survival suit bag and empty boots over here on the port side by the main wire winch.
And a letter.
And
a letter?
Nope. No, we haven't found that yet.
Okay.
And a missing life ring. And I go, oh shit. Look for the letter. There's got to be a letter. They always leave a letter. But I'm thinking to myself, he did not want to die. Why would he put on a survival suit? Why would he take a life ring? He didn't want to die. What's going on? So they went and they looked, and they came back and said, don't see a letter. Go look again. So they went down, they came back, and we found it. They cut it out. There was a cardboard box of paper towels in his upper bunk in his room, and he'd wrote in a Sharpie on that, and they cut it out and they showed it to me, and on that it said, like, you know, I should have listened to the foxes up on the hill, and I'm kind of paraphrasing. I can't remember exactly what it said exactly, but there was that line, and then I want to be with my friends the orcas, and I want to swim with the sea lions, and he said it is midnight and I'm on watch. I'll see you guys later. And I thought to myself, he's trying to swim home. Something's changed. He's trying to swim home. So, you know, I'm calling this into the Coast Guard. I'm calling it into the company. Yeah, I'm calling it into the company boats. I'm trying to get boats to come and search. And of course, no one wants. The whole fleet is 100 miles away. They don't want to come help me, you know. And to a guy that jumped overboard, you know. And so, but the luckily Christian AC he gets in the office shortly afterwards, and he hears all this stuff, and he orders the whole fleet to come help me. And so that's good. So I got some help, but I'm backtracking. I have my track line because I was making a track line. I always make a track line, and I flicked on my sodium lights, which are, we call it Norwegian sunshine, so you can see all and
bright lights
big
everywhere.
Bright lights, and I'm coming, and I am focused on navigating and keeping right on that track line, and plus looking out. But I got everyone up, and I got everyone in a window, right? That quadrant, every single quadrant is covered, and look for flashing lights, the blinking of the strobe light, look for anything. So we're coming back, and I'm doing all the communications, and I figured, okay, we knew that last time we saw him was 12:30 at night. So I did the math, and I knew that this point he was on board. We got to that point. By this time, it's daylight. And boats are coming to help, but there's no one really here. But the Coast Guard's up and flying. They have is either two C-130 fixed wing aircrafts and a helicopter, or vice versa, two helicopters and one fixed wing C-130 aircraft. But they're up there flying, and they're flying just their kind of grids, right? And so I turned around and I'm going back, but I knew the current was flooding, which would be pushing to the northeast. And so I go, well, I'm just going to slide over a quarter mile. And I'm going to go a quarter mile off my track line. And I headed on up. And we got about, not long, an hour, maybe. I'm not sure, maybe an hour, up there. And then Mark finds him. He sees him. Says, there he is! And we look, and there he is, and he's waving to us. So I'm on the radio. We see him, we got him, we see him, he's over here, turn right towards him. The guys go out and they get the Jacob ladder over the side, and we come up on him, and they throw him a line, and he's awake, he's ready to be picked up now. He's gone for his little swim, he's ready to get picked up, and we pick him up. But Mark, it's been 10 hours, 11 hours, something like that, since he went overboard. We've been looking a while. It's been a while. So there's a whole thing about, health concerns and what's going on. And so I went down, and he just peeled off his survival suit and went right to the shower. I'm taking a shower. Everything okay. And it's kind of weird. The first thing he says out of his mouth, he didn't want the guys to help him on board. He wanted to get on board himself. And the first words out of his mouth was, "Did Howard make radio schedule?" So we made radio schedule every, 3 times a day. And the guys are like, yeah, Howard made radio schedule. It's okay, Tracy. Well, I'm taking a shower. Peels off his survival suit, goes on in to the shower, right? And so I'm talking to the Coast Guard, and so they want me to take his vitals. He gets out of the shower, he gets down, and he is in his going to town clothes.
Which means dressed to go to town.
Yeah, he is ready.
Tennis shoes,
he is ready to get on the plane right now. And I says, dude, I gotta take your vitals here. A little cautious, And he says, yeah, okay, So I take his vitals. His vitals are good, and so I go report the vitals to the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard says, okay, now I got a question. Do you want to take him to town, or do you want us to take him to town? And if we do take him to town, is he going to be a danger to us or our aircraft? And I go, you know what? We got a lot of paperwork to do. We're gonna have a lot of stuff to do. Why don't I just take him to town? They said, that's fine. He's all yours, And so we took him to town. Now the owner of the company, he had called in to thank me for picking him up, and also to tell me he wanted me to shackle him into his bunk. And I knew, this he's a friend of mine. Like I said, I knew him for 10 years. I'm not going to shackle him, man. Yeah, the guy went crazy. He's crazy. But I'm not going to shackle him in. But I told the guys, look, we're going to do 2-person watches. One person's going to be driving the boat, and one person's going to be on Tracy watch. And we had these big, huge Ziploc ties, kind of like cops, And I said, and I got them all preloaded, all stuck through the little holder, and we're ready to zip tie. And I says, if this guy flinches, we're taking him down, but I'm not going to shackle him. We headed off to town, and he actually was pretty docile the whole way. Kept on wondering when we're going to get to town. He was ready. And, I really do believe he just
snapped.
Well, as it turns out, he spent some time in the Alaska Psychiatric Institute, and then he was released to his family, and they put him in a psychiatric institute. Turns out he was schizophrenic, hearing voices and the whole bit, which turns out to be what the note was about, was all those voices, which were animals. But it was about a year later, he calls up the boat, or calls up the former company, and says to the former company, you know what, I'm only now just realizing what's going on, and could you please let the boat know that I'm just very thankful for them too, that they picked me up and they did what they did. But you know what? We brought him back. We brought him back alive. And that, I gotta tell you, he came aboard. Everyone else is on deck. They loaded him on. And I'm standing there, I'm at the controls. And my legs just went to rubber.
That was the best moment, yeah.
Went to rubber. I kind of used my arms. I propped myself up on the chair. And I just started weeping. I was so happy. And it wasn't tears of despair. Tears of joy. We found him. We found him after all that time. We found him. We're bringing him back alive. Yeah.
That's going to be a tough way to end this here. Are
we out of time?
We're way over time again.
Oh, crap.
No, you could talk like none other, but I appreciate it and I love it. I guess at this point we're gonna stop.
Okay.
But we have to go for part 3 at some point.
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Barely got into the Northern Patriot, but remember, guys, ALS event May 15th. Howard will not be there. He's on a big vacation.
I am.
He's writing a big check though for the ALS fundraiser. Remember, guys, our goal is $60,000. Trident Seafoods will help with that, with their sitting their food truck out, the Fork and Fin. And you've had that truck.
I never have.
Are you serious?
I never
It's
have.
all your freaking fish.
I know it, but you know what? I don't live in Seattle. I live in Anacortes.
Wild Alaska pollock, guys. But come out, buy something off of it. Trident will give 100% of all sales to the ALS fundraiser in Pat Dwyer's name. And I encourage you all to follow, like, subscribe, share, please. And write in the letters to mark@galleystories.net. And we will see you next time.
Hey, Mark, thank you. Thank you very much for listening, putting up with me, because you know what? I shouldn't take up 2 episodes. Now, I'm not even done.
It's been epic. It's been epic. I think we can go a 3rd one. Because you kind of broke down there in the middle a little bit. Your first one was really fluid. Second one was more the captain side, the pristine captain side, the steps.
Yeah.
And then towards the end there, you got back into the story side. And we're still recording.
I know we are.
Yeah. And then maybe on the 3rd one, we'll come back and reconnect. But amazing story, Howard. I mean, I can't appreciate you sharing it enough.
Wow.
When I heard you talk about losing the man.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It still hits me hard.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. And a lot of guys in our fleet, in our industry, have experienced something like that, but they don't share it.
Mm-hmm.
So we appreciate you sharing it.
Fishing can be a really good life. Man, it can be a really hard life too. Fishing has treated me very, very well.
You have a great family from it?
I do. And
thank God for Patty paying all the rent.
It is, and she's been my biggest supporter. She really has, she has championed me on, but it has provided a good life, but it can be a hard life. It can be a sad life, as well. It's all the above. Take it all on above. I'm taking up more of your time. I'm sorry.
No, we're all good. All right, guys. Again, another episode of Galley Stories, probably the 2nd one in a row here. I'm your host, Mark Kaler, and we will see you next time.